everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap this past Saturday's pretty good boxing action, which we had cards on Showtime and HBO. The Showtime main event was John Molina versus Ruslan Provodnikov, and HBO we had Martinez-Lomachenko versus Roman Martinez. We're going to start with the Showtime card, work our way from there. On the preview, we talked about Demetrius Andrade versus Willie Nelson, and of course the main event. But also opening up the fight was a fighter whose name we could not pronounce at the time. I've now found out it is Dejan Slatichinin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And he looked very good in his fight for a vacant 135-pound title. So we got to look out for what's going to happen with him. But let's get into what we broke down for the preview video, which was Andrade versus Willie Nelson. Take it away, Rob.
All right, so in this fight, we thought it was going to go decision because both of the guys are pretty big for 154 pounds. I mean, we saw Willie Nelson at 6'3". I almost looked at him like he was like 6'4" because he towered over Andrade, and Andrade is listed at 6'1". So these aren't short guys.
No, not at all.
But we also said that, if I'm not mistaken, Willie Nelson is a guy who can go rounds unless you can get him out of there earlier. The later it goes on in the fight, the tougher he becomes. That wasn't the case.
No. Another thing that we mentioned was the footwork. Now, the footwork was very important in this fight, but there were technical mistakes made by Nelson that he was unable to capitalize off of what we thought he would be able to from Andrade, which is how he sometimes keeps his feet a little wide. Also, he looked a little off balance early on in the fight as he was trying to find his range and trying to slide out and create those angles on Nelson. But because Nelson, as he was walking forward, was actually walking in a normal walking stance instead of walking forward in his boxing stance, he was crossing his feet and being out of position when he got in range to punch, which opened him up for a plethora of Andrade counters, which produced knockdowns in the first round, the 11th, and the 12th.
Right.
Now, in between that, unfortunately, Nelson didn't offer any jabs. Well, few jabs. I think he was trying to counter Andrade, but he just wasn't fast enough.
Right.
And Andrade, to his credit, was able to pot shot him a lot during the round. And then at the end of the round, especially late in the fight, start landing very vicious combinations to Willie Nelson. And that's what got him the stoppage. So now he is, if he wasn't in the conversation for people before, even though we've been mentioning his name a lot, he now definitely is in the conversation for 154-pound supremacy. He's got to get through the Charlo brothers. Julian Williams is fighting Jermell Charlo next, and then Jamal Charlo.
Jamal, because Andrade will fight Jamel after Jamel fights Hatton.
Yeah, see, we getting a clear picture here, and Erislandy Lara's out there waiting for somebody as well. So the 154-pound division is looking really good right now. And then we don't know if Canelo's going to go back down or if he's going to stay at his personal weight that he can fight at because of who he is, his stature. So that's another name that possibly could be thrown into the mix.
Right.
So let's move on to the main event of the Showtime card, in which we had John Molina and Ruslan Provodnikov. Now, we talked about how this was Provodnikov's Showtime debut. They, wanted to give him a good, tough fight that they felt he would be able to win, which both Rob and I thought he was going to win by knockout. We were like, hey, tune in early. This one's going to be lots of heavy punches, and it's not going the distance. There were lots of heavy punches, but it did go the distance. And Molina came out with a very well-deserved decision
Very.
in a fight that he was able to consistently box for all 12 rounds.
And that's something that we did not expect from Molina. If you've seen his fights versus Matisse and
Mickey Bay, Hank Lundy,
you're not going to mistake him for a defensive
Antonio DeMarco.
Right, defensive or boxer. He's normally a brawler, can hit you with heavy punches. So with his plan in this fight, we know Provodnikov is not a value puncher. He's not a speedy guy. He has decent timing, and we know he hits like a Mack truck.
And
so
he's got sledgehammer hands.
Yeah. So what does he do? He comes out. He uses his height, his length, and his jab, which was surprisingly effective for him.
Right.
But not surprising because a lot of fighters, and we told you, the people who beat Provodnikov are boxers.
Right.
Who utilize their jab very well. And that's exactly what Molina did. And I was impressed because not only that, he was able to counter those heavy shots because once Provodnikov landed, you could see it move Molina. So
yeah,
what did
pretty much every time.
Every time. So what does Molina do? He utilizes his jab and he increases the volume of punches. He threw over 1,100?
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
It was over 1,100 punches, which is almost 100 punches a round. He kept up the activity, so he was in great shape for the entire for that.
Shout outs to not only him but his camp for preparing him in the perfect way. He did have a new trainer. I don't think they ever mentioned his name.
Yeah.
But shout outs to him for getting Molina to stay focused and giving him those new wrinkles to put a little more miles, a little extra mileage on his career. They gave him a little tune-up so he can go a little bit farther.
Right.
Now, I'm sure they'll get him in there with somebody at 47, another name, maybe like an Errol Spence or someone coming up. Maybe he can fight like Saddam Ali in his comeback fight from Vargas.
Maybe even the guy, we saw him against, no, that was at 140. He was in the same camp as like Provodnikov. I think him and Provodnikov were either in the same camp or they're from the same country. The name will come to me later.
Okay. Yeah, so, or he could go back down to 40 because that's where he was at first and fight. He could maybe have a rematch with Matisse. We
would all love to see that.
Yeah, the winner of Postal and Crawford. He's got options.
Oh yeah.
So we'll find out what those are as we go on further in the year and the picture starts to get clearer. Now let's switch gears over to the HBO main event, which happened over in New York at Madison Square Garden on the eve of the Puerto Rican Day Parade. So we had a great crowd, a lot of energy, and on that we did talk about Zhu Shiming, and he was going to, have a showcase fight, which he did showcase some skill, whitewash his opponent,
of course.
And Verdejo came in. We talked about in the preview video how he, in previous fights, he was loading up a lot. He wasn't setting up his punches. He wasn't too fluid, but you see the skill is there. Like he has a shotgun jab, left hook is hard, his right hand. There's a lot of comparisons to Tito Trinidad with him. And I think those comparisons kind of went not to his head in a way to say like, I'm the man. Like he really wants to entertain the crowd like Trinidad, and that's why he was loading up a lot. In this fight versus Martinez, this was Juan Jose Martinez. He was a lot more fluid than we've seen him in the past couple fights, and he was able to get the stoppage in the 5th round. In a preview video, I said he'd do it within 5, so he made it within that window. And so now we wait, because I'm not sure how the politics are working. He could fight the Zlaticanin guy that won on the Showtime card,
which would be a very interesting fight.
Yeah, or Rancis Barthélemy. Who is he at one? No, he's at 135, right?
He's at 135. He just
beat Mickey Bay.
Yeah, he just beat Mickey Bay.
So that's a fight that can be made. I think he's with PBC, so that might be a little difficult for both guys. So I think that wasn't a Showtime. That wasn't a That wasn't a PBC card last week.
No.
So that's possible.
What division is Mike Reed in?
Mike Reed, I think he might be like 126.
Okay, I'm trying to think of someone around that one. Never mind.
Or 140.
Yeah.
I don't think he's not 135.
There's a name that I'm thinking of. I'm sorry, my memory's done. It's late. There's a guy that I'm thinking of that is kind of going neck and neck with Verdejo right now, and I cannot think of his name. I'm sorry.
Pedraza? Is that what you're talking about?
It might be Pedraza.
He's pretty good.
It might be Pedraza. What about Eric Lubis? No, Lubis
he's
154.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Amir Imam, but he's at 140.
I think he's at 47.
Somewhere around there.
No, he is 40. He is 40.
So it's 140. I'm sorry, I'm just talking now. But yeah, it was a great fight. While he did get the stoppage, I had an issue with the stoppage because of the entire fight. He was fighting patient. He was setting up his shots just like you said. But then he hurt him, and then he just went after him. And the problem with going after a guy like that, if you don't get the stoppage, if you don't knock him out, or if you don't get the referee to step in, then you punched yourself out. And while he did land, I don't think there were only but so many that were clean enough to say, hey, we got to stop this fight. I'm not saying he didn't land, but you could tell he was just swinging for the fences. And something like that, he needs to calm down, measure his punches, and take the guy out. It's okay to take your time, even when you see him hurt. Just don't go in there and throw as many punches again. If you don't do it, you blew you wide early, and then you have a tough rest of the fight.
Right. So let's move on to the main event, in which Roman Martinez was defending his super featherweight junior lightweight title against Martinez-Lomachenko, who was attempting to become the fastest fighter to win a belt in 2 divisions, and which is his 7th official pro fight.
That's right.
I think the World Series of Boxing controversy has died away. I don't think that anyone counts those anymore, or is trying to count them. They are giving him his pro record at 5-1. Spoiler alert, now 6-1.
That's right.
But in this fight, we said that Lomachenko would be the sharper guy, the faster guy, the guy with the better footwork. But what we did not see was the outstanding stoppage that he got against Martinez. We said that, Martinez was slow of hand and foot, but he did have power. And if he was able to land early, he may have had some success later on in the fight if he was able to slow Lomachenko down. He did land. He did hurt him.
Yeah.
It looked like once in the 3rd round he landed a really good right hand that had Lomachenko backing up for a while. Because up to that point, and after he recovered, Lomachenko was surprisingly the aggressor the entire fight.
Right.
So the check on Lomachenko's chin is good. So we don't have to worry about that. Beyond that, it was the quintessential Lomachenko performance. The outstanding angles were there. The accuracy was there. It did take him a few rounds to get really honed in on that accuracy. That's not a bad thing. But once it was there, he just began to pepper Martinez with lead left hands, which then he switched into a overhand left, which set up the stoppage.
That's right.
Martinez has nothing to hang his head about. Like we said, he did land some good punches on Lomachenko. He made him work. It was not an easy fight, even if the HBO commentating crew did nothing but praise Lomachenko the entire time. He was getting hit. He was taking leather. And he had to work to get that stoppage. I mean, well, this was a knockout. This was a flat-out knockout.
Oh, yeah.
He dropped him. Martinez was not getting up. And you kind of knew it from the jump. Like, as soon as he hit the canvas, you were like, this is over.
That is a wrap.
Yeah. It was a picture-perfect right well, it was a left uppercut into a right hook, and it kind of looked like a combination that you see from Roy Jones. That's one of his favorite, like the lead left hook, the leaping left hook.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's not too much more to say about it. I mean, it's
just going forward, I'd just like to see him rematch with Salido.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see. And hopefully they can get the money right for the Walters fight. He's got to come down on his monetary demands. But if not, then
there's other fights out there.
Yeah, there's other fights out there, and he will be the one missing out.
That's right.
Because he's a really good fighter, but we would love to see how he would do against other really good fighters.
That's right.
So we'll see where Lomachenko goes from here. That is it. The next time you see us, we'll be talking about Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, and Anthony Joshua, Dominic Breazeale.
That's right.
Which are going to be two excellent fights. One of them is not going long at all. And I'll give you a hint, it's the one where the guys weigh over 200 pounds.
Boom.
So we'll see you guys in the next episode. If you want to get with us, check us out on our social networks, all in the links below. Right above that, there's the like and subscribe button. Hit that as well. And we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is come at a cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.